Working with Excel outlines. There's a feature in Excel called Auto Outline that I use quite a bit. What Excel looks for in a spreadsheet when you want to create an outline, especially automatically, are consistent summary rows or columns. And how can you tell what are formulas in a spreadsheet? It's probably pretty obvious here that we've got some totals in row 8, 15, 22, and 29, and we've got some totals here in column F. But sometimes that's not so obvious, and we would certainly hope that when we would click in here, for example, that this is a formula, not a number that somebody's typed in. Before we get into Auto Outline, I want to show you a tip or trick, a keyboard shortcut that reveals formulas on our screen. So even if we printed, we would see the formulas themselves, not the actual answers when we print. Plus, of course, any of the other types of data, like text and numbers. Looking at your keyboard, find one of the control keys, and when you hold it down, right below the escape key, there is the back apostrophe. It shares the key with the wavy line, also known as the tilde. When you hold down the control key and tap that back apostrophe, it's going to reveal for you the formulas that are on the spreadsheet. Plus, of course, it's going to tell us what text data we have as well as numbers. Yes, if we printed right now, we would land up seeing these formulas here when we would print, which is pretty handy because when I'm troubleshooting and I've got some formulas that are not working for me properly, I'll print out the spreadsheet with its formula, and then I will go back to the spreadsheet, hide the formulas by using that same keyboard shortcut, control back apostrophe, and print with the answers, even if there's error messages there. So when I revealed the formulas, you can certainly see that indeed those rows contain formulas and that column F contained formulas. I'll hide. Now let's look for Auto Outline, the outline action that automatically creates an outline for us. And then when we're at the Data tab and we find the outline group, we'll notice the group command here offers up group and auto outline. I'll first pick auto outline and then we'll create our own groups, our own grouping effort to create our own outlines later. When I do that, folks, you can certainly see that there's some braces here, some dots above and to the left of columns and rows. When I click on any of the minus signs, for example, to the left of any of the rows that contain formulas, expect the dotted rows, the details, to collapse. And when I follow through with a few more of these collapsed rows, you can see I have just the totals available for me in view. What about the column? I've got columns B through E as my details, and then when I target the minus sign above column F, it collapses the detail and just gives me my A column and my F column. So my level 1 is really showing you and me the formulas. Speaking of levels, up here in the column area and in the row area, you'll see a 1 and a 2. These are the levels for the outline. When I click on a higher number, it will expand and show me more information. So when I click on the 2, my detail is appearing in my columns. When I click on the 2 over here in my rows, all of my detail is now showing. When I click back on the 1, I have my level 1 showing my totals for my rows and my level 1 for my columns. If I printed, yes, I would just get what I see. So I'll take us to print preview and you can see how we have only the totals showing here. Hiding any sensitive information perhaps, or just purely you don't want to be looking at detail, you want the bottom line. If I want to remove the outline, I simply go back to the Data tab, focus in on the outline group, and notice Ungroup. I clear outline, and I no longer have an outline. If I want to create my own outline, or I can, work with it adding to an existing outline, I have to think about adding groups. At times we have spreadsheets where we don't have any totals in it. So if you want to create an outline, you'll need to use the group choice instead of auto outline. I'm going to highlight columns B and C to start off with. Go to Group and choose Group. You'll see how these two columns that were selected are now considered the detail. And if I target column D and hit the minus sign, those two columns B and C are hidden. Have you ever manually hidden and then unhidden columns and rows and thought there's got to be an easier way to do this? Well, this is why I'm showing you how to group so that you can quickly click on a level, 1 or 2, or find a plus sign to expand or a minus sign to collapse, and then you don't have to manually unhide or hide columns or rows ever again. When I expand this grouping, you'll notice that it's still selected. I'm just going to click on one cell here for a moment and show you maybe a little tiny, dare I call it, error. If you land up not selecting an existing grouping and you try to ungroup, so I'll click on the down arrow for ungroup and then choose ungroup, it's going to come up with ungroup what? Rows, columns? Like I don't know what you want. And when I click OK, it might give me that warning that there's nothing to ungroup by that little bell sound. So what you need to do is firstly decide, well, what group do you actually want to ungroup? Highlight it, and then when you choose ungroup, then it's actually going to do that for you. Back over here to auto outline, I want to show you one more thing when it comes to outlining. We can add our own group, of course, by choosing a group, and instead of clicking on the down arrow this time, the default is group, so I can just click on the top portion of this command, and you'll see how it adds an additional grouping here. So if I click on the 2, it's going to hide columns D and E. And then if I click on the 3, it's going to expand everything back to 1, and it's hiding all detail. I'm going to expand and show you what happens if I accidentally keep those two detail selected and then I try to do a clear outline. It seems like Excel doesn't know what I want. Well, it responded, sort of, to clearing the outline, but only what was selected. So if you want to clear the entire outline, in other words, all the groups get ungrouped at the same time, just click on one cell, and when you go to ungroup, clear outline, and the entire outline will be cleared.